Hi, this is Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot Whistleblower Radio. We're having a very interesting Friday here, I have to say. Anyone who was tuned in the last hour with Dr. Bill Deagle will absolutely realize that we were being attacked periodically, basically. And I think it was very interesting that just towards the end of the he's thrown off the air when he started talking about the bases on Mars. As usual, we've got all kinds of interesting behind-the-scenes things going on. But at the moment, I have George, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce it, Kavasilis. Is that it?
George, that's just about right. George Kavasilis.
Kavasilis. Okay, no, I didn't have it quite right. Okay, so George Kavasilis. And I'm very excited to talk to you, George. George is in Australia and obviously may have even felt some of the repercussions of the recent earthquake in New Zealand. And I've been to Australia, George. I don't know what part of Australia you're in. It's a lovely country. And I'm very interested to hear all about your work and what it is you do. And if you could just kind of start from the beginning, that would be great.
Oh, thank you, Kerry. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you. I feel honoured for the opportunity. Where it began for me was at a very, very young age, as far back as I can remember. I was going up into ships or craft, whatever you want to call them, since the furthest memory I have back goes to about 5.5 years old. And that's been happening throughout my life. And it took a very serious turn, I would say, probably about 12 years ago. And there was a period of time there, probably about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that I was going up in the ships 2 to 3 times a week. About 2 to 3 times a week. Yeah. So,
okay. But can you elaborate when you say you were going up in the ships of who, or at least who did you think it was?
Yeah, I've had interactions with many different kinds of races, what I would consider both benevolent and malevolent. There's various different reasons that various different races have interacted with me and with everybody. That's how it works. We have actually contracts with different beings and different races. So I've had the experience with numerous types of grey races. I've experienced the robotoid grey beings. I've experienced the organic biological based what we call grey beings. Because they're not all robotoids. Some races of greys were actually once humans, but chose the path of technology, and that's why their body parts atrophied. And then there's humanoid beings. I myself have incarnated from Sirius, so I've been in contact with Sirians throughout my life, and also I have an aspect in the Pleiades system of my being, so I've been interacting with the Pleiadians as well. And Arcturians and many other races.
And how about the Andromedans? Have you had any exposure to them?
Very limited. The Andromeda beings have, basically because of the vibration of their galaxy, has more of a masculine flavour.
Oh, that's an interesting take on it. Okay, well, if you talk about your experiences, and I have briefly looked at some of your interviews that are on YouTube, and I have to apologize because I'm not as well versed in what you do in your background as I should be normally for an interview of this sort. But I'm very happy to introduce you to our audience, to the listening audience of Project Camelot, and I think this is a great opportunity to do that. So what I was wondering, though, in terms of the races that you are interacting with, have you found that it started out perhaps with the more negative types and then moved to the more positive?
I would say it's been paralleled all the way through. It just got started getting really intense about 12 years ago because I started changing as a being. I started really bringing more of the what I would call universal understanding into my waking consciousness, and some of the experiences I was having was helping me to, I would say, awaken and become. It's really becoming more aware and merging with more of my greater being, and that's why my message, I suppose, is a little bit. While it's parallel with many people, there is a slight difference to it, because it's the magnitude of my experiences have allowed me to have an incredible perspective on what's actually going on here, and that's why I share that. This information that I share with people is I'm not teaching anyone anything new. It's inside each and every one of us. So really all I'm doing is providing triggers for people to start reconnecting with their greater beings again and get back in touch with that universal knowledge.
Yes, and I happen to agree with you. I think that everyone has the same ability to tap into all of this, and that people like us are basically triggering those memories. And what we are all about is awakening the greater whole so that we can move forward. And what I'd like to do is find out a little more specifics about where you think the planet is at now and why, and then where you think we might be headed.
Yeah, sure. Where the planet is at right now is right on the cusp, right on the precipice of labour pain. Basically, the contractions have only just begun, and what's happening here? What is Earth all about? What are we actually all doing here? Why have we chosen to actually be a part of what's going on here right now in this part of the universe? And that is the key to understanding everything. And really, why did Mother Earth manifest herself in the first place? So, as Dr. Bill Deagle said a bit earlier, what is so important about this planet? Why has the dark, what we call the dark agenda of the universe, focused all its attention right here, right now? And I say to people, you've got to realise just how important and how magnificent everyone on Earth is, because the truth as to why we're all here has been buried underneath so many layers for such a long time. And what's happening here is the birthing of a new race of beings in the whole universe. It's a form of life that has never ever existed before. And what a lot of I would say the scientific world and people of who are more scientifically minded may have issues with what I say, is because what is happening here is this construct of life that is being birthed is beyond what we call atomical structure and is actually beyond what we call mathematical construct. So we're leaving that paradigm. So we're leaving the paradigm of the cosmos that has that we've been immersed in and have been a part of for eons and eons and eons of time.
Okay, that might be another way of saying that we're moving out of the third dimension into the fourth and beyond that, even to the fifth or sixth, wouldn't you say?
I would say beyond all of that. You see, when we originally took our journey down through the dimensions of this universe, we actually experienced the first highest form of physical life, because what I didn't introduce earlier in the talk, for those who are not familiar with my work, is that I actually in 2003 took a journey up through the dimensions of our universe with my consciousness, and got to see life, how it's structured in our universe. And then I even actually got to see outside our universe. So you've got the being that is the creator of this universe, and we call that God. And then there's all this life outside beyond that. And what I realized was everyone who's inside this universe has actually got their own universe happening out there. So everyone's a creator and a God in their own right, and are equal with what we call this universal consciousness we call God. And what we've come into this universe, this construct is light, what we call light. It's a light-based universe. It's a frequency, it's sound, and it's off a mathematical, most of it's off a mathematical construct, the majority of it. So we've come down through the dimensions of the universe and experienced all the different levels. And what we're doing now is we're birthing this new way of life, and the beings who have taken that really long journey are coming through that whole process, and we're about to become what's called universal beings, or human in its true sense, because hu is an ancient word for God, and man means mind, so we're becoming godly beings of godly mind. And it's an incredible journey that we've been on.
And I think that this is fairly accurate, although it's a difficult subject to talk about in so many words, because it's so complex. I'm wondering if you're familiar with the work of Ashiana Dean and the concept of what she calls angelic humans.
I'm not, unfortunately. No, I've only just got a computer about 4 months ago, so I'm not familiar with a lot of the things that are going out there.
No problem. It happens to, I did interview this person, and her information that she's getting does parallel to some degree what you're talking about. One of the concepts behind what she talks about is called angelic humans, and that is the concept that we came down through the dimensions, as you're calling it, basically incarnating on different levels, and that we are all existing in the God mind at this time simultaneously, actually. And so I think that where you're going with this is fairly accurate. Can you talk a little bit about what you think is happening in terms of the mixture of races on the planet? And I don't just mean the traditional sort of races, but I'm talking about the multitude of what we call extraterrestrials that we are all a part of, because what I see here is a melting pot of various ET races. And as you yourself have claimed, you are a mixture of the Plejaren and the and I'm not sure what other groups you were referring to.
Well, two of my aspects that I have the most energetic stream coming into this incarnation. The majority of the energetic stream comes from the blue star of Sirius. It's actually a planet on a higher level, and that's where most of me has come from into this incarnation. And another and a major energetic stream comes from the Pleiades itself.
Okay, and so when you talk about the blue star of the Sirius, can you describe the beings and maybe some of your interactions with them?
Sure. We are very tall, and the most basic structure to look at is the embodiments of Nefertiti, Akhenaten, that those beings were actually Syrians that came to the planet a long time ago, and that's why the whole family and other people around the planet had the elongated craniums and were quite tall. And the reason why Akhenaten's embodiment was quite feminine in nature is because of the nature of the race is very balanced in the masculine and the feminine, and it's a very, very balanced state of being. And we also have a lot of aquatic beings on our world as well, whale type beings.
Yes. Okay, well, that's very interesting. And I would say I also have a very strong relationship with Akhenaten and Nefertiti. So what is, can you talk about maybe some of your experiences that revealed this information to you? And again, the interactions that you might have with this race or any others?
Sure. What I want to clarify is that when we meet races, when we meet our galactic family, because I've been dealing with third dimensional, fourth dimensional, fifth and sixth dimensional Sirian, Pleiadian groups, Arcturian groups throughout my life, and basically the moment you are in their presence, nobody has to prove anything to you. They don't have to remind you of who they are. You just instantly know. It's like your brother or your sister or your mother walking into the room. So, and I've had to deal with a lot of other groups as well who are, at the moment, unfortunately, posing as different races. So you've got to be very, very careful of what's going on around this planet right now. So,
yeah, and I think that's a very, sorry to interrupt here, but I do want to footnote that because that is interesting that you say that. And I did note that you were talking about that very briefly in one of the interviews I caught. And I was happy to hear that you were aware of that because it is absolutely true that at this time there are a lot of beings that are parading as other types of beings.
Oh, yeah. And you see, why I've come to this planet is I'm here with a large group of beings who have incarnated to help this transitional period, and like you and like me, and there's many of us here on the planet, and we're just, because we are considered sort of like an elder type of position within our own home systems, we've come here to help guide things at the moment. Now, the most important thing that I want to share with you, because I know you asked me other questions and we've digressed, but we're getting right to the real meat of it, is like this great man David Icke said a long time ago: problem, reaction, solution. And what I want to bring to everybody's attention is that we look as though we have vaccines and what have you, and the problem, reaction, solution that takes place with all these scenarios that they want to introduce something, and so they create the problem, they get the reaction, and then they can implement their solution. And we've known about that on a planetary level for a very long time. Now, what I want to bring to everybody's attention is they really, really must realize that this system is also intergalactic. This cabal that is running this planet is intergalactic. It goes way out, way beyond. And it even goes all the way up into collective hive minds and collective pools of consciousness. So it goes beyond individual beings. So the problem, reaction, solution scenario is being implemented on the planet right now, but from off-world. And so the problem of this equation is the ruling elite, okay? Now, and it's off-world cabal. Now, you've got to realise, I said in my DVD, Our Journey in the Grand Deception, that people need to realise that we're talking about a massive galactic and intergalactic empire that has assimilated thousands of ET races into its paradigm, and many of these races are not even aware they're inside of it. Just like so many people on this earth are not aware that they're inside a very limited paradigm. So right. The information,
That's very good, and I'm glad to hear you delineating that, because I think that is something that a lot of people don't realize. As you say, that this is intergalactic, that this is a cabal that goes beyond just human, and that it is orchestrated off-world. That's absolutely key. And,
absolutely. And I've dealt with these. I'm sorry, Kerry, go on.
No, there's a slight delay, so it's always a little difficult during these interviews, but go right ahead. What I'd like you to do is just extrapolate even further in that regard.
Okay, so what we're seeing is the problem being, I call it the drama. And when we talk about the possibility of a third world war, when we talk about the oil thing, and I actually commented the moment it started, I was saying, gee, that they want to bring down the weather system by stopping that giant conveyor belt under the Atlantic Ocean. So I was I had that feeling, and it was great to hear Dr. Bill Deagle talk about that. So they're trying their hardest, and the problem, reaction, solution is they have a solution, and they are going to talk, these ETs that are presenting themselves to the world at the moment, going to talk all about love. They're using love against humanity, and they operate from a different type of love than unconditional love, than the love of the true light of the universe. It's not an organic love. And people say, well, there is just love. How can you say there's different kinds of love? Well, there is. And what there is what I call the white light of conditional love. And it's very passive. It turns people into a very passive state. So you've got to realize that it's the other side of polarity. And what I'm talking about, when I talk about the true light, when I talk about the organic light, I'm talking about beyond duality in that sense that we know of. And because we've been placed into a very negative energetic paradigm for so long, people are just screaming out for love. And so when this other version of love comes along, people take to it like baby takes to candy. And they've got to realize that they shouldn't just go for the first lot of beings that just because they talk about love and everything's beautiful and they talk about oneness and, you know.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy. I'm very happy to hear you say that. It's, it's fairly rare, especially in, the so-called New Age. These people have been duped, by those false feelings of, serenity that they get from these beings and so on and so forth. And, it absolutely takes a discerning mind and heart in order to determine what you're dealing with.
That's right, and that is the solution to the problem. So if people can see we're being swung into one area of duality, and now they're implementing the solution, which is this love and light business. And people need to wake up and realize that. And I say to them, if you, when you meditate, for example, if you're bringing light inside from outside of you, then I would be very, very wary of that, because we have everything within us. We have all the light, all the love within us, and all we've got to do is turn inside out. So you reach inside of you and bring your light out. And if you've got a so-called ascended master, an angel, and they're telling you to use their light to bring it in from outside of you, then that is the red flag. I would definitely be careful of that. Now back to the more practical, pragmatic agenda. They have an agenda to fool people when the time comes to get on as many ships as possible. And there are different levels to this. Now, there's I have actually people may not be aware of my experiences. The magnitude is really quite vast, and I know it can read like a Hollywood fantasy, but it really has been my life. And I just say to people, just go in their hearts and take it or leave it, whatever I say. But I have been taken to the moon, and I did talk about little monkey type people that took me there. I've been saying it for years to my friends, and recently Jose Escamilla has come out with photos showing little monkey people on the moon as well. So it was great to hear that somebody else has finally got some sort of evidence to show that. And I've also been taken to Mars, and I've spoken of that in my DVDs and presentations. And they're actually it's a project called Project Genesis, which I haven't heard. Besides, someone told me it was mentioned in a Star Trek episode. But they are currently preparing to take as many people off-world when the time comes to Mars, to continue to keep humanity under their control. And the changes that are coming for this planet are huge. And
we're hot on the heels of that ourselves. And so I'm also very happy to hear you talking about that. When you say, you were just about to say, that this planet is about to undergo some changes, are you looking at the future, and are you getting information about Earth changes and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I recommend everybody, because I'm going to tell you where I get my information from, is I speak to Mother Earth herself. And this is what's been left out of the equation. I'm hearing, and I'm not putting anyone down in this regard. I'm just saying I'm hearing out there on the internet at the moment, it's all about what the governments are doing. It's all about what the ET agendas are. And it's all about, and I'm involved in that ET agenda process myself. But what I want to bring to everyone's awareness is, hey, who are the forgotten heroes in all of this? And the most main issue here, the forgotten hero in all of this, is Mother Earth herself. Here's a being that volunteered to manifest as herself as a planet to facilitate this experience that we're having, and talk about, wow, what a woman. One thing people will learn about getting into my material is just how much I have come to remember and realize who this woman is that we are on, the body that we walk upon, this woman that nurtures us every moment of every day. When you start realizing the power of the feminine and the divine feminine, and I'm not talking about goddess worship, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm a realist, and you've got to realize who we are on, who you've decided to come. People have come from all corners of the universe to incarnate on this planet. And why did they hear that call, and why did they feel so strongly the need to be here at this time? So that relationship is primary and paramount to your existence here. So that is the forgotten variable in the equation. Okay? So
yes, and I appreciate that. We do have people that are talking about that, by the way, but I think it bears repeating. And so at this point, given the scenario that the Earth as a feminine being, if you want to call her that, then what she's undergoing, the changes that are being made, not only imposed upon her, but also the reaction. In other words, again, problem, reaction, solution. There is a reaction, whether it be from humans and or from the Earth, in regard to what all is going on in the solar system and beyond.
That's right. And I say, ask Mother Earth what she's going to do, because we keep hearing about what the alien agenda is. And all the information is designed, that is coming out of these circles, is designed to distract you away and take the power away from it, because we keep hearing about it's the technology that is going to create the changes. It's some planetoid that's going to come into the solar system that will actually create the changes. Well, no, it's not. It's the being herself. She has more power than all of that. That's the reality. Okay, and the other reality is the sun, the being that is the sun, that is the solar system. You have an intimate relationship with that being as well. And so there's an agenda to turn you against the sun. You've got all the sun, the identity of the sun has been hijacked. Okay, so you have a lot of negative propaganda against Horus, Ra, Apollo, all the sun god worship, because their identity got hijacked throughout the ages. And it's a very, very clever plan to turn you against the organic flow of the energies coming into your incarnational body. And so if you want to know what's happening, what's about to happen, get in touch with those two beings, start connecting with those beings, because that's the energetic stream of your being. Your essence flows into your incarnational construct, your incarnational embodiment via, like when you come into a galaxy, you enter through the core of the galaxy, and then you go out to the star system, then you go out to the planetary body that you incarnate from. So I just want to get that bit right, because that's very important for anybody who wants to get this universal knowledge. So what Mother Earth is about to do is to give birth to a whole new race of beings, and she's about to what we call ascend. Okay, so what is ascension in itself? And basically that label gets used because it represents raising in frequency, going upwards. And so I know my atoms are spinning faster already. I'm fully aware of that's going on inside of my body. And actually I'm also aware that the Earth is actually spinning faster, even though people find that difficult to accept and say we can't measure it, because it's all proportional. So at the same time it's spinning faster on its axis, it's spinning around the sun faster, and the sun is also accelerating throughout the galaxy as well. So that is actually fact. It's not some crazy theory, but it's all we're inside of that paradigm. So it does get difficult to actually measure scientifically that's happening. So it is speeding up. This reality is speeding up, and we're heading towards that process that we call ascension. And I'm aware that in about the equinox of 2013, the March equinox of 2013 is actually the end of the precessional cycle, because the bit that people keep forgetting is that we're in what's called the precession of the equinoxes. We're not in actually the precession of the solstices. So the cycle does not end on December 2012. It actually ends on in March equinox of 2013. But the events that will take place, around December 21, 2012 are very, very important indeed, because that's when Mother Earth starts straightening up on her axis. And in order for anyone or any being to actually ascend, what we need to do is find center again. So Mother Earth is finding center. So the wobble will disappear. She will straighten up on her axis, find center again, and that will be a 3-month process from December 21, 2012 to the 21st of March 2013. That is the period of what we refer to as a pole shift, not a flip. And when she finds center on the 21st of March 2013, on that equinox, that is when her planetary light body will be activated. Now, what happens to the human race prior to that is very important indeed, because nobody's going to be on the surface of the planet when that starts to happen, because you just won't survive those sort of changes. And I know what I'm saying just sounds totally outlandish and totally crazy. You've got to realise life can change very quickly.
Actually, I have to say that it does not sound crazy. And I, again, have to cite Asha Yanadine and her material on my website, who has talked about these same things, although from a slightly different perspective. But nonetheless, we are talking about pole shifts, not so much pole shifts as magnetic shifts, as well as a straightening of the axis. What is also going on, though, is a transition from this form to another form, and I think you're accurate in saying that there is a new race. In fact, we are the new race, or some of us are at this time. Others will be possibly leaving this incarnation because they are not wanting to be part of that for whatever reason. They have other business elsewhere, or they may be reincarnating on what, depending on your perspective, some may say a 3D Earth that will be reappearing.
Well, there are other planets that are being set up, so it's not Earth itself, another 3D Earth. This is the mistake people are making. They think there's going to be like a divide, and well, it won't happen this way, because Mother Earth herself is ascending. It's like, if you are going to ascend, are you going to leave any bits of you behind in the lower paradigm? Then no, otherwise you wouldn't be ascending. You won't, all of you.
Right, I understand. And I think that maybe this is also very complex, and language is so difficult in order to describe what we're talking about here. But what I wanted to ask you more specifically is about the stargates and the use of the stargates in the ascension process.
Okay. The stargates are going to be used to lure people off-world. Ascension is not going through a stargate at all. Ascension, in the organic sense, if you, because there's going to be different versions of ascension offered to different people. Like I've said in my talks, they have a recipe for every mindset. That's what you've got to be careful of. So if it is someone's journey, if they wish to take the organic path and ascend and become a universal being in the true sense, in the totality of it, then it's important to stay with Mother Earth. And what we will go through, I call it the doorways. What we will go through is it'll just be an opening in the fabric of this reality, and we'll go through into a higher dimension. And for some people, they might see sort of like a doorway appear. It may be that that's what their being has presented to them. And for others, they will just blend from this reality into the higher dimension. And we'll go back to what's called the fifth dimension, because that will be the platform for the actual ascension process. So it happens in stages. It doesn't just go bang in one group ourselves there, and that will all happen before the 21st of December 2012, and we'll be in sanctuary in the fifth dimension when Mother Earth cleanses her body, because the current ecosystem we have on this planet is totally barbaric. Everything has to consume everything else in order to survive, and it's a paradox. You can't have a group of enlightened beings walking around an ecosystem that is full of death and destruction. So people need to realize that this whole ecosystem, the whole natural environment that we currently have around us, has to go as well. And for Mother Earth, she's going to ascend and become a being of light. And so what does that mean, you know? Well, a being of light, she will be literally emitting light. So I've said she's going to become a star. The planet is actually going to become a star, because that's what, you know, that's a label that we are used to. We look up in the night sky, and the majority of beings down there that are showing themselves as beings of light are what we call stars. And so Mother Earth will become that. Now, the light she will emit will be very delicate. It won't have a harsh edge to it whatsoever. So the actual detail of the transformation, I only have some understanding of that. It's coming to me more and more as time goes on. But at the moment, people say there's nothing here to turn this planet into a star. And I say, well, you know, it's full of hydrogen. it's covered in it, and oxygen, and we're going to get to a point where we're going to go beyond atomical structure. So the atoms will reach a critical rate of spin, the molecules will fall apart, and then the atoms will literally fall apart. And what will be manifest here will be something very incredible.
Okay, George, now I would like you to give your website for people, first of all, and we are getting some questions coming. So I also want to be able to ask you those before the end of the hour, and we are fast approaching. We've only got about 20 minutes left, I believe. So first of all, what is your website?
Okay, it's called Ascension and Beyond, or you can access it by www.georgekavasilis.org. And my last name is K-A-V for Victor, A-S-S for Sam, I-L-A-S, .org. So that's another way of getting to it.
Okay, and is your last name Greek, by the way?
Greek heritage. Mum and Dad were born in Egypt, but we're of Greek heritage.
Oh, I see. Okay, very interesting. Okay, and in terms of the communication that you have with the beings that you're in touch with, how do they communicate with you?
Yeah, that's why I'm so glad you asked that. It's I've communicated with beings on many levels. So when I'm communicating with my family, what I would consider my galactic family, it comes from my heart center in the middle of the middle chest, which is located around the thymus. Excuse me. And I've experienced on many occasions telepathic communication with beings. So I just want to let people know that I have experienced on many occasions all the different levels of communication. So I communicate with beings. I'm actually I don't channel beings. I actually have conversations with them. So I communicate with them, just like I'm talking to you, but just on different levels. So I can either do it telepathically or I can do it via consciousness, what I call conscious heart, my conscious heart connection. And you feel the resonance of that energetic exchange throughout your whole body. It's a different form of communication. Okay.
Thank you for that. I do have some questions here. Some of them are perhaps a bit simplistic, or we may not have time for the answer also. So let me just plow through them quickly, and then if you have, want to keep your answers fairly limited simply to acknowledge the fact that we have limited time here, that'd be great.
Sure.
We have somebody asking, why do we allow the bad stuff or the negative stuff to happen in our personal universes?
Okay, now the universes that I spoke of outside are of a different construct to this one. So the term good and bad does not exist in your own universes out there. What you do have, though, is your own galaxies in this one. So every galaxy out there is a individual being, and you've got to realize that you are a galaxy, and that's part of your journey as becoming a creator. You're already a co-creator with God, and you're learning how to become a fully fledged universal creator. So you've already had a good go at it in creating a galaxy, which actually, in all honesty, many beings refer to as little mini universes. So when you hear people talking about parallel universes in this construct, then that's what they're referring to, is really just other galactic galaxies, because some of them are enormous. And you allow them because it's part of the nature of the construct of light. It's a waveform. It's polarity based. And to what extremes of polarity you have in each construct of your galaxy, well, that's entirely up to you as a being.
Okay, and that's a very good answer. Okay, and here we have another question, which is, why did different beings take you for a ride? They're asking, what do they want?
Okay. That's it would take me a few hours to answer that properly, but I would say, just to really summarize that, okay, the original grey races that were once humanoid are very old friends of mine. They're the ones that have come here and said, do not choose the path of technology because you will end up like us. Look at us, and they're warning humanity not to take the path of technology, and they're a dying race, and that is true. But what happened was, other grey races and reptilian groups, the Cabal, took wind of that truth and used it on humanity as well. So they're very good at doing that sort of thing. So many different races for many different reasons. So other ones wanted to suppress me. I've had everything thrown at me. Implants, still got them. Mind control, nanites, you name it, they've thrown everything at me. And I've come through it, and that's because I'm here to do a specific task, and they've tried to stop me, but my inner light and consciousness has defeated absolutely everything they've thrown at me, and it's been a hell of a journey. I've been tortured. I've even been tortured by the shadow government, and it's been an incredible journey. And, one day, Kerry, if we have time, I'll sit down and tell you all about it. But,
Okay,
it's been
that
quite
would be
a journey.
really interesting, and I'm sure we could share some stories. And what I think that many people out there will resonate with what you're saying, because there are quite a few people experiencing all sorts of things on this level. So thank you very much for that answer. Now we've got another person asking, what about healing disciplines and spiritual practices that bring light in?
Okay, I would say that they are all fourth dimensional based. If you want to start getting into fifth, because my model of the universe is slightly different to other people's. It is similar. A lot of the beings out in the universe use this model, because it is, maybe the labels are different, but the actual, realms of division of energetic patterns between dimensions are the same as the models that I've shared, and you can see them on my, DVDs. The best one at the moment I shared was, our journey in the Grand Deception. I go into it in detail. And, basically the light that you bring in from outside of you, it's all stepping stones. You basically have all of that light and more. You have the whole universal structure inside of you, because this human form is a generic form, and if you were to take the veil off, it'd be a freak show. We are the incarnation of every race out there possible, and it's a universal being, a human, a godly man, and a godly being. So we are it was a generic embodiment that could house inside of it all any race in the universe. So that's why we have all the codes. That's why our genetics are the most prized possession, and from the point of view of the negative ones, the most prized commodity in the universe, because genetics are the number one commodity out there. It is the key to life and the key to power in the universe. So that it goes way beyond any substance or technology. Genetics are number one. So it's very important to realize how magnificent everybody is, and gee, if I had time to get into an incarnational construct, it would blow everybody's mind, really, how important everybody is. We're all ambassadors and way showers. So, it's I know I've got to keep it short.
And that's very, very good. What I just wanted to do was augment the idea of genetics and expand upon that just slightly, so that people understand that we're not just talking about the kind of genetics that humans in the consensus reality refer to genetics as. In other words, you're talking about your ET heritage, and that's not known by the humans on the planet at this time. So I just wanted to put that caveat in there, because what you are talking about is a much more expanded notion of one's genetic heritage.
Absolutely. We are, each person incarnated on Earth, because this is the melting pot of the universe. That's what Project Earth, if you want to call it that, is all about, just to use earthly labels. We are, each person is the incarnation of a race. So it's fractal, it's a stepping down. We've been on the road to compression and back towards oneness and centered. So we went down through the journey, down through the dimensions into expansion, and then the feminine aspect of the universal consciousness said, I'm going to now take control, is to start bringing it back towards oneness. So she manifested herself as the Milky Way galaxy, and that's why we call it the Milky Way galaxy, because it's the nurturing of the mother's milk. So this galaxy we are inside of is an aspect of the divine feminine, the feminine being, of the aspect of God, of this universal creator. And we are inside of that. So this galaxy is a fractal of life out there. So each galaxy out there has been compressed into a star system inside this galaxy. And then from that, we have been compressing it down. We went into the Orion Nebula and had all the Orion wars and sorted out our differences. Then we came to this solar system, and there was great wars that raged here, and then we're onto one planet. And so what we have here is incarnated beings that have the representation in their genetics of life out there. All life out there is represented here. So each person has multiple energy streams. They have contacts with many races out there, and every thought they have, every feeling they have, that information is being transmitted back out to all these races, and they are learning from our experiences here on Earth. We are showing them the way. It is so
Absolutely.
incredible to...
A great way of putting it. That was a tour de force in a long sentence. Very, very good. I'm sorry to move you along here, and thank you for that. We've got another question here. How are digital plasma screens being used to control the mind?
Yeah, great one. LCDs too, but not as bad. It's the digital plasma. It's got to do with the construct. Now, I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just an average bloke who's come across a lot of information. So other people can actually help me. I've got ways I can point people in directions, and they can better explain it actually. So it's the frequency of the plasma. It's the way it vibrates. They integrate the plasma inside the screen. It synchronizes with the brainwave patterns of the people, and it just gets into your mind, and they know they can influence your mind, and they're influencing the way you vibrate and operate and function as a being. So that's one of the techniques they're using. They've come at us from every angle. The truth is, they haven't left a stone unturned. Every religion, even indigenous teachings, everything has been infiltrated and manipulated, and you just got to realise what battle is going on here, and how full on it is. And then you've got to realise that, you know, your inner light and your consciousness will override any of these things. I've had everything thrown at me. I've still got implants. I've still got nanites, and I'm just defeating everything. And you can too. And don't spend too much time worrying about this stuff. Just focus more on your inner light coming out from inside of you, and know full well that whatever is going on with you will transmute that. And very, very soon, there's going to be a wave of awakening. It'll come in stages, and people are going to start awakening on this planet very soon, far more so than what they are now. And we will be able to re-heal and regenerate our bodies. It won't be an issue at all, so don't worry about it. And most importantly, this new world order is not going to happen, okay? Because Mother Earth has her life cycle and her journey, and that's why I urge people to get in touch with her and ask her what she's doing, because it doesn't matter what any of these other beings think they're going to do. She's got her journey, and that overrides anything that any of these other beings, and we're a part of that journey, and that will just override any agenda. So don't worry about it. It's all going to be just fine.
Okay, and we have another question here. In what way will twin flames unite?
Oh, wow. I get asked that a lot. Okay, we're talking on the subject now of divine sacred union, and what does that mean? And it's a big subject. There are people who are involved in all sorts of relationships here on the planet, and that's fine. All people need to realise is that in order to ascend, we need to bring everything back in a rebalance, into a balanced state of being. So, for example, you really need to balance the masculine and the feminine. So, in this lifetime, I've got my masculine embodiment happening, and I've also got my feminine embodiment happening, what I refer to as my twin flame. So some will meet out here in what we call the matrix, and then others will meet once we go back through into the fifth dimension, and others will meet there. And then what you do is you end up integrating and merging your energies on that level there. So it's horses for courses. Everyone's approaching this in a different way. There's not one rule meets all, so to speak.
Okay, and the last question that I see here, and then we can perhaps cover a few more topics that you might have in mind for the remainder of the hour here. Does George know that the capstone of the Georgia Guidestones weighs 24,832 pounds, which corresponds to the 24,832 years of his harmonic equation? So it sounds like you're just trying to
Wow. Well, no, I wasn't aware of that. That is fabulous. And that's another thing I just ask, because I know there's a lot of people who listen to your show who are scientifically minded. Please, I just ask, please look at those harmonic equations. I'm no expert, but what they are is they are the equation of the precession of the equinoxes. They are the equation of this cycle. And we have the fixed timeline and we have the illusionary timeline. And the illusionary timeline that we are on is the one that we're experiencing. It is the one that everybody's measuring from. And they've got to realise that there's a foundational fixed timeline beneath that. And the fixed timeline is 24,832 years. And it is that because it's a compounding equation. That's how you get wisdom. So, 2 times 2 equals 4, 2 times 4 equals 8. 4 8s are 32, and it compounds in itself. So it's recursion, and that's how you gain wisdom in life. And so it had to be that had to be the equation. The foundation of this reality had to have that in it. Otherwise, we couldn't achieve the outcome. And therefore, the illusionary timeline has to do with phi in that equation, and that equates to 26,366.618 years. So it can, if people measured the precession of the equinoxes, which they did in the early 1900s, it was 25,800 years back then. And then later in the 80s, with their more advanced technology, they worked it out to be 25,920 years. And you could already see the acceleration. They're experiencing it like it's spinning faster, so they think there's more revolutions, more cycles and annual cycles. So it really is accelerating. If they were to remeasure it now, it would be up around 26,000 years, if not 26,100 years. So we're on a logarithmic curve, and I urge people to take a look at them and just expand. Take what I've already written and work with it, because it's in there. It truly is. It links into our DNA. It links into everything. It really does.
Okay, well, very interesting. So we have only 4 minutes left here, George. So could you maybe once again give your websites, and then also kind of touch on briefly whatever last words you'd like to say here, and then of course let's continue this, and perhaps we can have you back on again real soon, because it sounds like you've got a lot more information.
Okay, my website is Ascension and Beyond. You can Google that, or you can get to it by my name, George Kavassilas. George, you know how to spell Kavassilas, KAVASSILAS.org, georgekavassilas.org. And all my DVDs, everything there is all available at no cost. Of course, I'd be more than happy and with deep love and gratitude accept a donation if someone was to share that. But I make the effort of providing, as you do, Kerry, and making all the information accessible. It's all about our human family, and I do my best to make that happen. I've only just got a computer and just getting out there in a more substantial way. So, yeah, it's...
okay, well, very interesting. So it does sound like you've got a lot more to share, and I'm sorry that we have such limited time here, but I think this is a great beginning for people to get to know you a bit. It sounds like you've got yourself on positive path. I will definitely say that. And is there any, like I said, last words? Maybe even you could talk briefly about what you feel might be happening in the next, say, 6 months on the planet.
Okay, I don't get access to much of what's inside the drama. All I will say to people is that around October, I would say there will be an energetic wave that will come through, and it is right where on an Ouroboros, to use a symbolism, is where the snake head bites its tail. So we're talking about a very much the beginning. I would say it's kind of like the beginning of the labour pains being activated. It's about, a rebirth. So it's bringing about the deconstruction of this reality. I urge people not to focus their attention too much and not to buy into the drama. There's incredible amount of drama that's being created as an incredible distraction. If you can just please focus more on the natural processes. So rise above the drama. See it as a drama that's been created from off-world. Whether it's the oil spill, I mean, what does oil represent? You know, it's the abyss. It's where dark entities are being stored in this world, because this world is a fractal of the universe. So what is oil? It's not blood. It's not the blood of the earth. It's actually the abyss, and they're trying to release that in various different ways. Hence the burning of the oil and fossil fuel, what we call fossil fuels. And so there's a big story behind that. Connect with Mother Earth. Ask her, and people say, how do you do that? And I said, just talk to her like an old friend. Talk to her like you think of her like you've got your best friend, and you're just so comfortable, you know. You can tell her anything, and those feelings you get with a friend that you're most comfortable with, and you can just open your heart up to, go into that space and just talk to her like an old friend. There's no need for any weird rituals or anything like that. It's really, keep it simple. Keep it as simple as possible, and just go quietly, go for a walk somewhere and just talk to her. And the more you do it, the more you start regaining that connection, because there's a big divide between you and her that's been created over such a long time. So give it time, be patient, and also talk to the sun, because you exist here because of these two beings. And I want to just, that energetic pattern between the sun, the earth, and you, that is the true construct of the Holy Trinity. And people need to, and I'm not coming from a religious sense or anything, it's just understanding who these beings are and our actual construct here, and the importance of the foundational energetic patterns that create you into actually existing here in the first place. So keep it organic, keep it simple, and don't buy into the drama. Rise above it, or step back from it and detach from it. And with all the drama that's coming up, get the popcorn out, sit back and watch it unfold, and also be creative if you can. Keep your creative juices flowing, because that comes from deep inside of you, and it's the expression of your internal and greater being.
Well, that's lovely, George. I think that's well put, and I think that's a great advice for people going forward, because certainly the drama is, as you say, increasing, and in different people's lives, of course, it's going to take different sort of aspects. But again, as I say, and I think that you will agree, all of you decided to come here at this time to experience these very things. And so to reject it out of the hand and say that you don't want it, you don't care for it, etc., is actually just being in denial. The fact of the matter is that we are moving into a completely different energetic pattern, and so is the earth. And so I think that there is a feeling of flow that you can tap into, and I think that that's maybe one of the most crucial aspects of the way to handle what's coming forward. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, Kerry. You nailed it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, George, it's been fascinating having you on, and I appreciate your sensibility, your approach to what's going on in this and many other universes simultaneously. And it will be great to talk to you again in the future. And let's stay in touch. Please stay in touch with Project Camelot. Send me any information that you come across, any feelings that you're having, and so on, that we can communicate to the people that are listening. We have a fairly substantial audience live for change on this show, and I think that a lot of people may be resonating with some of the things you're saying. And in addition, I want to let everyone know that Dr. John Waterman is coming up right after the show. His show, he will be back on the air. In the meantime, there is a song, piece of music coming along called Girl in the World. And thank you again, George Kavassilas. If you could say some parting words here. And this is Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot Whistleblower Radio.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I express my deepest love and gratitude from the bottom of my bottomless heart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck with the Australian earthquakes at the moment, okay?
Thanks.
Okay, take care, everybody, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.